All right. Okay, I just shared the link of our streaming on LinkedIn. So ready to start, Adrian?
Good.
Perfect. Let me uh, do the full screen. All right. Welcome everyone to our new webinar on how to get the most effective LinkedIn ads. Today we will talk about how to get the cheapest LinkedIn ads, and actually we will discuss if that's our real objective on LinkedIn and in all the platforms. Finally, if do we want cheap cheap ads or ads with a good return on investment? In today's agenda, we will talk about how LinkedIn works for B2B ads and the mistakes to avoid. We are with Adrian. Adrian is our VP of Customer Success at Zact. And I'm Joaquin Dominguez, Head of Marketing of at Zact. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Adrian. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah, all good.
Brilliant. So let's start talking about how LinkedIn works for B2B ads, realistic expectations, and etc.
Yeah, so I think it's important when we look at LinkedIn and we understand where its strengths lie and take advantage of those strengths and not make assumptions because we may have experience in other areas that we can just naturally translate that experience into LinkedIn. So really getting to understand that LinkedIn is not if you like, a transactional marketplace. It is not somewhere where your first thought should be, how do I generate leads? It's much more of a community, a network of people, albeit a big network, but it's a network of people that are on there for different reasons, but their primary reason for being on there isn't because they're about to buy something. So if you think about LinkedIn in that way, the normal things you would think about when you want to engage with a community or develop your presence in a community applies to LinkedIn. So that I think is important to understand. And I think the risk is, and we've used the Google bubble as an example, but the risk is you take your experience from other advertising platforms or other ways of capturing leads and assume that you can do the same on LinkedIn. And so you need to think slightly differently because LinkedIn, as a big business community, major plus is the fact that you can get your message out to people that are highly relevant, but it needs to be about educating about your company, your product, your service. That needs to be, the first thing. That's in the same that if we were out meeting a community of people face to face, we wouldn't put a lead form in front of them and say, well, could you fill this in? It's exactly the same on LinkedIn. You've got, introduce yourself, where you come from, you get to understand, exchange of information. And okay, so it's an advertising network, so it's not quite like that, but it is the same principle. If you haven't, introduced yourself, if people don't know your company or product, then they're not ready to buy from you. So yeah, education is a key part of it. Whereas if you think about Google, Google is search. So we say Google, but search. Think about search. Search is where I actually am looking for something specific. I might be looking to buy, or I might be looking for information, but I know I kind of know what I want, and so therefore, with Google, or search, I've got intent. I have intent, and I'm doing something, and that's why it's brilliant. And that's why everybody would have have looked at how a search strategy works for them, and because that's often the most cost-effective way of getting a lead. But with the beauty of LinkedIn is actually I'm going to reach people who haven't got intent because I'm educating them that have a product or a service that they may be interested in, and by targeting effectively on LinkedIn, I'm reaching the right people with that message. So that is my first job. And so therefore, I'm not relying on people needing to know about me on LinkedIn. I can go out and reach people who, we think need us, but just don't know yet. We think need our products and service, but they just don't know yet. So that's digital advertising, right? And that's where LinkedIn is at its best.
Yeah, it's so tempting that you have the audience in front of you. You know them by name, and so it's so tempting to go and ask for something. But of course, you need to start building connections, right? Building brand awareness.
Yeah. I'm going to run through that, and I think the other thing to bear in mind with LinkedIn is, we said here, you put a level of budget into LinkedIn, and it will spend that budget because you give it you give it parameters, and LinkedIn will find a way to spend that money. It assumes that's what you want to do. It assumes you want to achieve your objective and spend your money. And you don't necessarily, you can't guarantee anything in return, right? You can guarantee that your message is going to be put out there, but you can't guarantee an outcome in terms of a response. Whereas obviously with search, you only pay when you get a response. So that's the other thing to be aware of when I'm budgeting for LinkedIn. We budget with the clear understanding that budget is going to get spent. I mean, there are some rare situations where that doesn't happen, but typically your budget will get spent. So yeah.
It will find a way to spend your budget. That's the key thing, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, and we'll cover this a bit more in the next slide when we look at some of the mistakes that you can make unwittingly, right? With all the best intent. There are certain things that you just need to be aware of to make sure that the way your money is spent is the way you want it to be spent. So yeah.
Right. So let's have a look at the mistakes that we can avoid.
I was going to say, just before we do that, just go back, because I think it's worth talking through the structure on how to make your ads work, because you can still generate leads from LinkedIn. That is definitely possible. You can also generate really good connections, so not just soft connections, but genuine people engaging with you, sharing information with you, in order that you can build an ongoing relationship with them as part of their buyer journey. So I think it's just worth stepping through this. One of which is, we've kind of touched on this, when you're first going into a community or targeting a group of people that you want to get your message to, building awareness. So, brand awareness on LinkedIn is critical. With our clients, we suggest, doesn't matter how well they know, that they're always doing a level of brand awareness. And one of the reasons for that is it builds up that familiarity and like classic kind of advertising principles. But also it's a very cost-effective way of getting your message out there, versus trying to get somebody to fill a lead form, which is more expensive. So that building awareness is super important. Always on to a point. It can be a shrinking part of your campaign, but it needs to be there. And I think the thing with LinkedIn to remember is, people say, well, I don't want to do brand awareness because I don't know what return I'm going to get. Well, with LinkedIn, you can get a return, because the outcome of your brand awareness may well be somebody visiting your webpage. Because if they like your message and they click on it, they end up on your webpage. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to buy from you, but suddenly you're able to track that, potential for retargeting. You have created, albeit an anonymous connection, you've created a connection with that person. So that brand awareness is super important. Then, connecting with your community. And so that is, what information of value can you put out that means people want to engage more with your messaging, your product, your brand. And so that may be insights that you put out. It may be stuff like we do, right? This, which is sharing information that people can genuinely use and get value from. And we don't do this, and others don't do it with the expectation that it drives a lead, but hopefully people engage with the content, they get value from it, And that's building those connections in your community. And again, we'll come back to the importance of making sure you speak to the right people on the next slide. And then, of course, once you've built that connection, and you know who the individuals are, and or in whether that's directly because they've connected with you as an individual, or whether it's through the kind of retargeting and tracking process in LinkedIn, you can then start to nurture that community. And that community can be nurtured on LinkedIn. But of course, we've already discussed it can be also nurtured off LinkedIn. But with the starting point, that LinkedIn is where you got that connection. And that nurturing then is, how do I maintain a valued relationship with that community? So again, that's continuing to offer value, give people information that they can use, but at the same time building an understanding of what you are offering, so that they get to a point where they can determine how they want to engage with you.
And that could be in different formats, right? Could be a newsletter, could be webinars, could be white papers or whatever, but keep nurturing your community.
Yeah, giving people a reason to stay connected to you, and frankly, not just kind of the kind of really disengaging. You give people, there's no good just pumping irrelevant content out. There's got to be a strategy. There's got to be a plan. So people want to stay connected to you, want to engage with you, even if it's very passively. That's still there. And then this, then you can get leads, and you can get leads at that stage, right? Because some of that content may require an email, so you can look at gated content where email and contact details are required, particularly if you're delivering something of high value. So there's a value equation. The more value you deliver, the more you can ask for in return. So that you can get contact information at different stages, but the final step is once you've given that value exchange to be strong enough, and you kind of recognize that maybe there's a level of intent building here, then actually asking for something. Would you like a product demo? Would you like to talk to somebody who can tell you more about how we operate? Would you like to sign up for something? That ask, that lead, that final step, by that point, you've earned that, if you like, you've earned that right. But also what you're doing at this point is you're targeting a much smaller group of people. So that costly bit of getting people to fill in the lead form is reduced, because you're not spending, you're not trying to get everybody to fill in a lead form. You're trying to get a group of people you already know to fill in a lead form. Therefore, your spend, that expensive spend of getting where the kind of completion rates and things matter, that expensive spend is on a much smaller group who are already connected to you. So that's the process.
And retargeting is something that LinkedIn is really good at, because you can create audiences based on engagement, based on how many percentage of your videos they have watched. And of course, that they are already aware and engaged with your brand. So then you can ask something like an email, right?
Yeah, so that's what we're looking to do, but you need to do that in the right way. So we'll sort of talk through some of the mistakes that are made. If we kind of move to the next slide, just to make sure that now you know that the way you execute is avoiding certain traps. So yes, let's go on to the next slide.
Sure.
Yeah,
what are the mistakes to avoid?
Yeah. So let's work through this. One of the things that we talk about is translating B2C marketing knowledge to B2B marketing. Well, it's quite easy to get focused on the wrong metrics and the wrong thinking. If you think about how you engage with consumers, which obviously LinkedIn is a big group of consumers. And if you're used to using, Meta or X or other platforms for marketing, you're using B2C marketing methods to market to B2B. When it comes to LinkedIn, I think you need to be careful about that, because it's very easy chase the wrong behavior, right? So, and this kind of rolls into the next one. I can very easily get clicks for a campaign. Okay, so it depends on how good the campaign is, but I can structure that campaign in a way which absolutely guarantees we're going to get decent click-through rate. We can provide we can develop the right content. We can, let's structure the campaign in the right way, and we look at the click-through rates and go, that's brilliant. This is a great campaign. But in the B2B world, what we're looking to do over time is to build the right relationship. If all that effort is going into attracting the wrong companies, the wrong people, so I've got a great campaign, and we've got a customer that can generate leads so easily because they're offering a food service. So you put a picture of food in an advert, and they kind of message say,
everyone clicks.
Right, so they can get clicks, and they can get people responding, but they're not the right people, and that has a real knock-on impact, because that knock-on impact then goes into, we're spending money following up with those people. They then may come into the sales funnel, and we find they're just the proposition is wrong. They're completely so thinking about, it's not transactional. It's not about click-through rates. It's about, how do I get people into my funnel who are going to buy? That has got to be your objective. So looking at metrics that are more closer to, for example, MQL to SQL conversion. So we like to think about how many of the marketing leads that we generate then convert to sales leads. That's a really good question. If we can increase that by doing these structured campaigns on LinkedIn, knowing actually that some of these people may come through, having been engaged on LinkedIn, may come through other channels. But if that MQL to SQL is improving, then I'm getting the right people in the funnel. And I think that's super important when you focus on B2B. Focus on that outcome that you need, rather than, hey, look, I'm running a great campaign because I've got a click-through rate and a cost per click that's low. That might not be the right thing for you to do. I think this idea of looking at LinkedIn as, I think we've sort of covered this, but the idea, I just can put one campaign out there, one set of creative, and it'll work. Well, that can be very expensive, because if you put the wrong content out and you are not following a strategy and a structure, there's a good chance that the clicks you're generating, therefore the money you're spending, is going nowhere, or your click-through rate and the money you're spending is achieving the wrong objectives, as always stated. So look at the objective you're trying to achieve. And if, when you sit down with somebody, a warning bell for us is, we sit down with somebody and they say, look, we need to generate more leads from LinkedIn, so we want to run a lead gen campaign. So you can do that, obviously, but if you haven't worked through the process, then it's going to be super expensive, because with the right content, you can still get people to click, but they won't fill that form in. So you spend your money, but they don't fill the form. So it really is important that you understand the steps that you need to go through to make LinkedIn work for you. It's not one level. It's about awareness. It's about building community, connection, consideration. So awareness, consideration, and then I get the opportunity to put the right request in front of somebody.
I think you need to think this as a LinkedIn user as well, because all of us, we are all day, not all day, but we are on LinkedIn consuming content. And how many times you engage with ads that you like? Many times you see an ad and you like the ad, but a few times you press that ad, you give a like, or you share an ad. It's much more likely to engage with people, for example, than with ads, even though you can really like the content. So do you really care about clicks, about likes, about engagement with your ads? For example, at the brand awareness stage? Probably not. At the brand awareness stage, you only need to care about impressions, and well, we will run another webinar on how to get the most effective bidding strategy on LinkedIn. But for example, bidding on cost per click when you want impressions is not efficient. and as we discussed before, LinkedIn will find a way to spend your budget. So if you bid by cost per click, it will be very, very, very expensive instead of uh, bidding by cost per thousand impressions. Yeah, so it's really, really important to have your objectives clear and act accordingly to those objectives.
Yeah, and the last point is targeting the wrong audience, and this we see so many times. We run something called an audience audit, which anybody can sign up for, and it looks back over the last 12 months of activity that people have done on LinkedIn. And 9 times out of 10, one of the key takeaways from that audience audit is, despite your best efforts, so you're using LinkedIn in the way you think you should, despite your best efforts, the majority of your budget is being spent by companies that you can't engage with, don't want to engage with. And those typically are very large organizations with huge huge teams and workforces that are on LinkedIn and therefore engaging in content and sucking that content and clicking on stuff and whatever, and spending your budget, even though they may not be the right target audience. So that's just one thing. That's super simple. Anybody can manage that once they're aware of it. But of course, the other thing is, if you know who you want to target, if you've got an understanding of the companies that you want to engage with, then you can really make LinkedIn work for you, because rather than going out to what is a huge community, which you then cut and slice by some fairly basic filters, if you know the 10,000 companies on LinkedIn that you want to engage with, by putting that audience up there, that group of companies onto LinkedIn, making sure the matching is good, and then targeting the right people in those organizations, so therefore using the job title, the function, that sort of thing, then you can really start to focus your budget, and you can significantly improve the reach of that budget. So you're effectively reducing your spend, or if you want to maintain your spend, you're increasing the performance of the process. So targeting the wrong audience, 9 times out of 10, people are doing it without realizing. So that's something that most people can correct to some degree. But if you really want to make it work, and LinkedIn is a primary channel, then you should really think about, how do I get to the right people? Who do I know? What are the right companies? How do I target them? And then people in those companies. And if you do that, then you can make huge savings and huge gains in terms of that MQL to SQL rate, right? Because then, if they're companies I know can do business with me, and I'm putting those companies in a funnel, then my MQL to SQL rate is going to go up, and that's really what we want to achieve.
Yeah, unless that you're very likely that you can identify people directly, because LinkedIn is super effective in identifying people, right? If you know, for example, a very specific job title that it's your perfect ICP, you can put those keywords, and LinkedIn will identify them. However, not all the companies have that, are that likely, right? And they need to go over more generic job titles, and then the only way to target them correctly is targeting the right accounts. And in that area, LinkedIn is not the best. It has quite basic targeting and filters, and that's how we can really help targeting accounts. Well, yeah. Adrian, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation, and I hope everyone listening our webinar also enjoyed the conversation. Please, if you have any questions, write in the comments of the LinkedIn event. And also, I will put a link of a document that concentrates everything that we have been talking about today with Adrian. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks.